At Rabbit Hole, we're whiskey makers who firmly believe that we have to be mindful of our environmental impact and do our part for the next generation. Because, after all, our legacy is in the barrels that will come of age long after we're gone. To that end, sustainability is part and parcel of our daily operation, starting with where we get our grains, to our facilities, and what happens to our waste. We work with local farmers to source corn that grows just hours away from our distillery in Kentucky and in neighboring states, supporting family farmers whose lives depend on the land. Today, a load of about 50,000 pounds of non-GMO corn will make its way to our distillery. That commitment to work with only non-genetically modified grains goes for all of our ingredients: corn, barley, wheat, and rye. When the load arrives, a special blower is placed underneath the hull to get the corn from the truck to the silos. From here, the grain moves to our mill using a chain conveyor system. Designed to take advantage of gravity, our system eliminates unnecessary need for pumps. Inside the atrium, where our cooker, fermentation tanks, and distillation equipment reside, an inverted butterfly design is used to collect and recirculate air. All the metal you're seeing was locally sourced. On the exterior, locally sourced wood wraps the entire building to screen and to minimize radiant heat. Our cooker, fermentation tanks, and still generate enough heat to keep the place warm, reducing the pressure and pull on daily heating needs. We have 5 different recipes of bourbon, each one of a kind, each calling for a distinct recipe or mash bill that requires precise quantities of non-GMO grains. The corn being dropped in now. We use a sour mash technique, which means the remains or back sets of the last batch are recycled with the new to create a consistent pH balance from one batch to the next. It's also helpful as a more efficient and less energy-consuming means of heating up today's mix of ingredients, what we call the mash. At our facility, we have open-top fermentation tanks. The mash rests in one of these for 3 days. Fermentation is a natural wonder, an organic miracle harnessed by our ancestors over 10,000 years ago. Yeast turns simple sugars into alcohol. The yeast, in combination with our distillery's ecosystem, brings out a distinct flavor in the mash, making every batch unique. The result is this cereal-like liquid which contains about 5 to 6% alcohol. Now, ready to be transferred to this 12,000-gallon beer well, this is the point in which brewers stop and distillers continue. 2,000 years ago, humans advanced fermentation and built the second miracle, distillation, a way of purifying liquid by a process of heating and cooling, where the finest essence of the liquid is extracted. While there are many different types of distillation equipment, we use a 24-inch Vendome column still. Inside, the steam strips the alcohol vapors away from all the heavy stuff, like grain solids, water, and other impurities. Copper helps with that too. It takes away any sulfur in the mash. That leaves only the light stuff, the alcohol vapor, at the top of the still, where it's captured and condensed back into liquid form. That's what you're seeing pour out of our spirit safe, and ultimately what goes into the barrel. Any leftovers we don't use end up here, inside these 6,000-gallon tanks. Pulling up now are our partners from Bullet Cattle. Here to pick up the spent grain. The liquid's just too thick for us to use, but for the local cattle farmers, every drop can make a difference. This particular load is heading to a cattle farm in Bullitt County, about 30 minutes away from here. All that corn byproduct provides the cattle with a diet that's high in energy and protein. And best of all, it's a nutritious and consistent meal that's of no cost to the farmer. Over at the distillery, the barrels are finally ready to begin aging. Their new home, our rick house, is tucked away in the heart of Henry County. Made entirely out of steel, the most recyclable material in the world, this 15,000 square foot facility will house our barrels as they age. Inside, there's no light, no plugs, and no electricity of any kind. We use a pneumatic lift to hoist the barrels up and down, which means its every move is driven by compressed air. And because the only residents here are barrels, we don't need heat or air conditioning. Mother Nature takes care of that, one of the secrets of our bourbon. Kentucky's hot summers push the liquid into the wood, and the winter pulls it out. Every season, it takes on more flavor, color, and depth. Meaningful sustainability challenges us to pursue our needs without compromising the needs of future generations. It requires us to be mindful of the relationship between the human culture and the living world. And although there's still a lot of work to be done, as we grow, as we continue to build, we do it responsibly.